Shooting commercials on location is never just about showing up with lights and cameras. It's about adapting and finding the strengths and weaknesses of each home. And for this shoot, we had to turn 3 locations and make them feel like 9 different ads. Here, let's get into it. Homes are not like sound stages. You don't control the ceiling height, you don't control where the windows are, and you don't control where the walls have been placed. But you can control how you use them. But first, some coffee. The roastery city of Fountains blend. If you teach a man to make iced coffee, he can make iced coffee for a day. I don't know if this constitutes as iced coffee. There's ice, here's coffee. It says it feels like 4 degrees. Got the coat on, hope to warm up with this iced coffee. In one of the rooms, it was a sunroom where we knew the light was coming through beautifully. There was trees through the room, so what you're seeing through the windows, it would be nice, not nuked. It wouldn't be too bright. It would be nice and green and on the dark side. But we knew we needed to capture this before this time because I don't want to compete with the sun. Just like when we were on the front porch of this person's house, it was all about, okay, the sun comes from here to there. We would either need to shape this sun or we could just wait for it to get on the back side of the house and we'll bring in our own sun. So when you enter these rooms, when you enter these homes, you need to think, what are its strengths and weaknesses? What can we get away with? And what would be the most difficult thing to do in each of these rooms? And try to do the opposite. Nice. And when you're shooting on location, you've got to protect these homes. You're not in the studio anymore. From putting ram board down on the ground for the most high trafficked walked areas to putting tennis balls on C-stands. These are just a few ways to keep this person's home floor safe and clean. Here, let's get into it. I think the biggest skill set in on-location commercials is turning the location's limitations into assets. Whether that be like the office scene where this wall was dark, but it made for a better contrast. So I thought, hey, windows here, dark walls there. This is a better contrast. Let's put some shears on this window, push HMIs through it, and let's get some little accent lights going over there so we can get some exposure on that wall. These like narrow hallways or small bathrooms, we'll pull the camera back a little bit, use a little bit of a wider lens, and maybe, of course in this scenario, is shoot through the door frame. We're selling door handles after all, so using door frames to your advantage is definitely part of the recipe for this commercial. Thinking about locations, how it would naturally also be lit. So for this kitchen scene, I feel like most kitchens have top lights over their kitchen island. So for us, we did the same thing. However, we swapped their lights out and put in our own Light Mat 8 with heavy diffusion, snap grid and all. Push some HMI light with some CTS on it, even to warm it up even more. Through the windows, and when the room doesn't quite have a door in the place that you wanted to have a door in, well then cheat one. Bring a door in, hook it up to some C-stands. Especially if you're shooting a door handle commercial, it's not about the door, it's about the handle. And who's to say there's not a door right over here? Who's to say this is not a closet or another room? But if you're actually there on the day and you looked around, it was a giant living room area, but it feels like, oh, this is just another room. For this, we went with the same camera package and lens combo with filtration in front to keep each location to keep really each ad to feel cohesive, taking advantage of the RED V-Raptor's large sensor and the Zeiss Supreme Primes, which are known to be pretty clinically clean and nice, but yet they cover a large frame. And I just thought we should maybe dirty this up a little bit. So I added some scarf dust in front just to make some of the practical lamps glow a little bit more and just take the edge off a skosh. For this commercial, it was all about repeatability and precision. So everything was done on a JL Fisher, from pulling back to real door handles in every scene. I do have one small regret for this commercial. There was only really one setup that we allowed the scene to breathe more. Like every ad had to be a 6-second ad. We had to see the spot and end on the thing where they're gonna put the text. And yet you had these beautiful locations that we lit and sculpted. Yeah, we don't really see it hardly any at all. So one of my favorite scenes for this shoot was when we were in the little girl's bedroom and there's this window and we had this really cool door handle. It's like crystal, and the mom is like, helping her go to bed or something. But she's got all this energy, she's jumping around. It was all about practical lamps. I was like, how many lamps do you got? This is a girl's bedroom, she's probably got tons of fun lamps. And so we put a bunch, had our own bulbs in there. And for the window, this is supposed to be like nighttime. It was straight up middle of the day. So we had to put some CTB on the window itself. So we broke out the gels again, covered it in a couple layers of thick CTB, and that's just an ambient light hitting that window. If it was sun, that wouldn't work. It wouldn't feel right. Adding CTB to a window of an ambient light push can help you get closer towards that darker look on set. I know we armed out some tube lights to match that same color of practicals. Got the egg crates on them to help continue the push, but it's a room, so it doesn't need to be too sculpted. You just still try to shoot shadow side and soak up some of the negative fill that could be bouncing off the closet white walls. So slow that down a skosh, continue the push, CTB up some windows, and you get a really nice look out of it. But there is one little pro tip that you could do for each and every one of these locations. One of the things I like to do to make any room feel better or more atmosphere in the room is to use a hazer. But I also like to use it sparingly and using it only when it kind of makes sense. Like in the yoga studio where she's worked so hard, it's slightly steamy. Now we're not seeing the steam, but we're using that volume to help catch some rays from the sun and to give it a little bit of a lift. In the kitchen, it's the same thing. Gives it a little bit of lift and something that still feels natural. If you ever cook bacon in a kitchen, it can get kind of steamy, at least the way I cook it. And then we had another small motif in the bathroom, and I felt like that was another opportunity to break out the hazer, give this real small space just a little bit more of an atmosphere. And that's something you work with your, effects / your grips, or, kind of on smaller commercials, it feels like most people, I might be the one calling how much we want versus just overall, the hazer gets passed around for sure. But something you get, there's definitely times you can overdo it. It can be finicky, and you can have many a time. It could definitely slow you down as you wait for it to settle and not be moving in the air. You kind of have to get the whole team and like crew on board. Hey, don't be going in and out of the doors. We need to make sure it's closed. Anytime you open it up, it just gets sucked out. But I'm not one of those guys that say when in doubt, hazer out. It's just, if you can and it makes sense for your commercials, just have it on the truck. It's not that expensive of a rental. Just get it on the truck. And the difference between hazer and fog, I still actually don't know. I know people say one turns off smoke detectors, or one won't affect smoke detectors. I feel like we've tried both, and smoke detectors always find a way of going off. So, talk to locations as well. All right, back to it. So when you're shooting on location, it's important to work around what you can't move. Use the sun to your advantage. Get permission to use a hazer when and where it's necessary. And lean into those strengths and weaknesses that each location has to offer. We made one house feel like 3 locations, 3 houses feel like 9 campaign ads, and altogether that felt like one controlled craft because we comboed the right camera, lens, and filtration throughout all 9 locations. And if you want to see more type of work like this, you can check out my website, stevensgrass.com. Thanks for watching. Peace.